Good morning, everybody. This is the Agricultural Committee on October 21st, 2021. I'll call the meeting to order. Oh, could we have unanimous consent to approve the minutes?
Yes.
There, it's done. The public comment, would you people step forward?
How about roll call, Mike?
And do you want to do?
I
roll
didn't know
call?
there's no roll call.
I know, we should though.
Roll call, please.
Allen, Brown,
Brown,
Around here, I meant for attendance.
That's what we're doing.
we're doing it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on the second page here.
Fraz,
Raz here.
Opie,
Opie's present.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Sanchez,
Sanchez here.
Kenyon.
Here,
Quorum.
we have a quorum. So now there's no public comment. Hi, Mr. Arnold. Welcome. Kane County Farm Bureau.
Good morning. Actually, I just had a couple of things that, one that I wanted to circulate and one I wanted to distribute this morning. The distribution piece is about winter workshops, monthly business development series sponsored by the Illinois Farm Bureau, the Extension and Land Connection, and the Illinois Farmers Market Association. It's a series of about 16 workshops over the winter on everything from farm produce safety rule certification to developing e-commerce platforms for all different types of agricultural businesses, farmers market manager courses, and QuickBooks. I will, along with some HR topics. So I will distribute those to the members that are here present today. And maybe I can email them to the rest of the committee or leave them with staff. The second thing is something that I just wanted to circulate and because I have limited copies of it. But I think it's something that committee members will find very interesting. It's a pollinator habitat guide for agricultural landscapes, for pollinator gardens, for public spaces. And this is something that was developed by our organization also. It is available on the Illinois Farm Bureau's website. And I'm hoping that there is a direct link in the publication. Yes, there is. So I will circulate a couple of copies of this. But it's I have a limited number of them, but like I say, there's a PDF available on the website, and I think that committee members will find this very interesting and colorful. So
Yeah.
that concludes my report.
I want to mention that private well testing is taking place. Stephen,
Go ahead.
when do you draw the samples for private well testing?
I do not have that.
Look in the farmer, it's got it.
Right. Well, was it published in last month's Farmer?
I'm
know
getting
that-
pressure at home.
I know that-
Somebody reads this stuff now.
I know that we are, oh, yes. Collection date is Monday, November 1st. So we are distributing private well water test kits right now for members to bring back in on November 1st. We used to do this once a year, but the demand just keeps going up and up and up. So we offer this twice a year, but we have to collect a number of samples in order to do it. So we cannot do online. It's cost prohibitive to do, not online, on-demand water testing. But if we can gather 100 or more samples, we can collectively, so that requires everybody to pick up test kits in advance and bring them back in on one day so that they are shipped as fresh from the well source as possible. So, and I believe all of the members of the committee should now be subscribed to receive their Kane County Farmer in the mail. So
Don't you have another important announcement? I bought a truck.
I bought a truck. Well, that's true. We are preparing for our 2022 fundraising raffle for college scholarships and agricultural literacy programs. We do that through a vintage truck raffle. We gave one away last month and we acquired one yesterday for next year's raffle, but until my foundation board establishes ticket prices.
Age of the truck?
This is, we seem to be stuck in a rut. We purchased a 1971 Chevrolet C10. So we've been with that body style 3 years in a row now, but there are a lot of them out there, and this is a real nice looking truck. So
I told my son that you bought a truck and he said, what kind? And I didn't, that's why I'm asking you for the date.
a 71 Chevy C10 350 blue and white. There will be a lot of truck lust. It's a.
You
good
should
one.
have drove it over here today to get some attention. But there's nobody here. Any other questions for Mr. Arnold? Are you going to sell fresh turkeys this year?
We will have fresh turkeys available from Howard Kaufman Farms, Hoka Turkeys in Waterman. That information will be in our November Kane County Farmer about the deadline date for ordering. But you can order whatever size you want, 12 to, I don't know what the largest turkeys are. 12 pounds and up.
Any other questions?
I heard yesterday on the radio, and I know you shouldn't listen to the news, but they say there's going to be a shortage of turkeys this year.
They do. They say stuff like that almost always.
Well, they said it's not because, and I think they referred to the Hoka farm out there, that they raise typically 60,000 turkeys a year, but they don't have the help this year to prepare them.
Well, after meetings, we could go out there and help defeather the turkeys. You know, I could just see that taking place. I think we should send Mr. Barton out. He's from that area.
There you go.
He and his
Mr. Chairman, Fry's comment.
Fraz wants to go.
I just wanted to, before Mr. Arnold leaves, I just wanted to mention I'm attending the meeting from the cab of a grain truck today. So I figured this committee would forgive me for that.
Green truck.
What?
You said a green truck.
He's driving a grain truck today. That's why he's not here.
Oh,
Mr. Fry, you gotta let me know where you're gonna be because later on today, if it doesn't quit rain, if it quits raining, I'll be loading those grain trucks. So you can swing by and get a load from me.
So
And watch
I think
out
we
for this. Watch out for the scales.
Yeah.
trying to avoid the rain right now.
Northern Illinois Food Bank, are they here?
Hello, I am.
There she is.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. About that comment about the turkey shortage, we actually have experienced a shortage this year on turkeys. But from the turkey that we have received, we are now getting our boxes ready for holiday meal box, which will start going out at the beginning of November up until about the 21st. And so any volunteers, anybody you know who would love to volunteer and help us pack turkeys would be great. Also on November 11th, we are hosting our first ever Spanish speakers volunteers. So if you know anybody who speaks Spanish that would like to come and volunteer and help us pack, we are looking for volunteers for November 11th. And also we are starting to go back to client choice for a lot of our distributions, which is great because that decreases the waste food, because not all the food that is distributed in boxes pre-packed, not everybody eats all the food that's in there. So we have gone back to a couple of our distributions to Client Choice, where our neighbors are able to get off their car and select the food that they need and want. And we're still in the plannings. Hopefully by January, we are back to Client Choice for all our distributions and our programs. So those are the couple updates that I have for you today.
My friends at Feeding Greater Elgin tell me that the donations of food from the grocery stores is down significantly since this pandemic started. And they
Yes,
have to,
that's
you have to
true.
buy a lot of food now.
Yes, we've seen a decrease in the amount that is donated from grocery stores. And so we are buying a lot more food this year than any year prior.
So there's a critical need for money there.
Yes.
Food is the most important thing, right?
Food, yes.
There any other questions for Ms. Garcia? All right, we'll move on to presentations and announcements. Matt Tinsley's got a program he's going to talk about.
Yes, good morning. Today I wanted to just share a couple of the funding opportunities that our team has been tracking over the last few weeks. There continue to be a number of grant programs and business assistance programs that are being made available by federal agencies, state agencies, as well as some regional community organizations. And these are all funding opportunities that are available that farmers can apply for. Some of them are specifically for farmers, and one of them is a little bit more general for businesses broadly. And so these are programs that we've been trying to promote as much as we can through, through the Growing for Cane newsletter and sending out some direct emails. So we're just trying to keep up the communication and sharing as much information about these opportunities as possible. So the first one that I want to highlight is a program by the state of Illinois. It's managed by the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. It's called the Back to Business Grant Program. And this uses funding that was provided by the American Rescue Plan Act. So this is pass-through funding from the federal government. And it supports, it's really a range of businesses, although the program does identify what they call priority industries. And so looking within that, I kind of sorted through and identified some of the categories that I thought would best fit, would be most applicable for Kane County farmers. So that includes agritourism, florists, and restaurants. Now, obviously not all of Kane County's food growers would fit neatly into one of these categories, but many do. I mean, many do have agritourism programs and food services. So we wanted to make sure that, that farms and businesses knew about this. And so the funding ranges from $5,000 all the way up to $150,000 for those eligible businesses. And one of the unique features of this program is that it did make these community navigators available. So these are people that can actually provide, hands-on assistance to help people complete the grant applications and, and just be in a good position to submit a good proposal. So the application period for this did just recently close, but we did make a pretty significant push to promote this program up until the deadline about a week ago. The next program is run by the Advocates for Urban Agriculture. They received some funding from Foodland Opportunity, the Foodland Opportunity Initiative, and they've obviously funded some of the previous work that Kane County has been involved with. So they continue to fund, food and food production initiatives across the region. And this funding is specifically for what they characterize as urban farms. And so they categorize those as farms that are less than 5 acres. And the geography includes farms across northeastern Illinois. And it's a little bit more flexible in terms of, how the money can be used. Pretty much any programming activity, any major material inputs for a business or for a farm, tools, equipment, labor, logistics support, and skills development. So it's pretty open in terms of what that can be used for. And this is going to be open for another week, and it closes on the 27th. And the last funding program that I want to highlight is the USDA Pandemic Response and Safety Grant Program. And again, this is another program specific for farm businesses. And the focus is really providing assistance for ensuring the safety of business operations. So funding that's used for, personal protective equipment, for training workers on safety related issues. But it is flexible, but there does have to be a connection to improving the safety of an operation. And so the funding ranges from $1,500 up to $20,000. And this does include businesses as well as nonprofit growing operations. And Kane County does have a few of those as well. So I think that's pretty much it for the grants. And then
Bates, please, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Mavis,
Okay, thank you.
please proceed.
Can we go? Thank you. I will proceed. If we go back one slide, is that the kind of grant that Marie Wilkinson would be eligible for? Less than 5 acres? They probably have a half an acre or these small community gardens.
yeah, they would certainly meet the size requirement. Yeah, they could be a good candidate for this program.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, one question with respect to the Chicagoland Farm Grant under 5 acres that Ms. Bates just brought up. What are the amounts of the awards? I didn't see what they were.
For this
Yeah,
program, let me think, I have a note on that. The grants range from 2,500 to 20,000.
thank you.
And there are more grant opportunities available for the smaller grants. They kind of go from 2,500 to 10,000 up to 20,000. And I think there's only 1 or 2 of the 20,000 grants available.
Thank you.
So, yep.
Thank you.
And then just to wrap up, I did want to highlight a couple of programs that we have coming up. The first is the kickoff of the JJC Farm to School Farmers in the Classroom program. So we've had to kind of put this on hold for a while because the JJCs had to they haven't been able to consolidate the classes and have students in the classroom the way that they had for a while just because of some of the COVID restrictions. But now that that's relaxing a little bit, we are going to be having our first farmer speaker giving his presentations later this afternoon. And we're happy to have Yadi Moore. He is an urban farm manager with the Roots and Wings farm, which is based out in the Rockford area. So he manages the farm program, which has a CSA, and they have a farmer's market that's connected with a affordable housing complex. So he's going to be talking about his experience and the programs that he manages. And then secondly, the program I discussed last month, which is the Regenerative Grazing Field Day. And this is again going to be at Allgrass Farms at the Brunner Family Forest Preserve. And I know that some of the committee members had expressed interest in this. And, while we do want to fill up as many of those spots with farmers that are interested, if there are any committee members that are interested, feel free to reach out to me, and I can follow up with you next week once I have a better idea of what the attendance is going to look like for that event. So
Matt, Bates,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
I think I received an email that was going to be on November 6th. Am I wrong or?
If you did, that would have been a typo, but the event is October 30th.
Okay,
So a week
October
from-
30th wins.
week from
Okay, thank
Saturday.
you. And how do we sign up for that?
Just send me an email with your name.
Okay. Thanks.
Good ride with her.
And that's all I have.
Any other questions? Janice Hill, are you going to talk, what is the value of
Yes,
conservation incentives?
I am going to talk, and Blair will pull up my PowerPoint and hopefully move my slides along. I have just 3 slides to talk about the value of a conservation easement or conservation incentive, I'm sorry, to go along with our agriculture conservation easements. The reason that we have or will have conservation easements coming up for next year is thanks to you as the county board. When the next budget is approved shortly, we will have funds to be able to move forth possibly 10 to 12 farms in an entire cohort, which we have never done before, for farmland protection. So first off, thank you very much for that, and to the Riverboat Committee for funding our request for funds. This will be a groundbreaking move for the launch of our new farmland protection program. Okay, next slide. So in order to assist those farms, not only in their land protection, but in their conservation achievements for soil protection and water resource protection, we hope to assist them with incentives. And as you know, I've been presenting on this for a while to you now. So we want to talk about how we are going about doing this and what to expect. So we have 2 farms that have already been approved for funding, and we have those 10 to 12 that will be coming through, and we hope to recruit them for farmland protection for the upcoming cohort. As you can see on the left, we've applied and we are applying for funding. We would receive the funding and then bring that to you as a committee and onto the board to create what would be an incentive, a conservation incentive package. On the timeline, you can see that right now we're at that number 1 and 2 stage. Hopefully for number 3, where we announce the slots for the program, which again, farmland protection is always voluntary. So we would have farms respond to our request to the slots for the program, hopefully around January, February. We would bring that new cohort to the Ag Committee and then ultimately to the board for approval. And then move to number 5, which would be bringing that cohort to NRCS for federal approval for their land protection package, and then have their complementary conservation incentive package, should you approve that future concept moving forward. And all of this makes us more competitive for funding, increasing funding that keeps coming out. There's more and more funding, both corporate funding, federal funding, for conservation incentives for practices on farm and adjacent to farm. Next slide, please. So the answer to the question is, what is that value in the dollar amount? And really that's going to vary. That is going to be based on the goals of each individual farm. It's going to vary farm to farm. We will have a whole farm plan developed for each farm that will serve as a guide for fundraising. And then from that, we will be able to approach the different markets, the state, federal, and local and corporate sources and philanthropic sources that we will have curated to this point, and then hopefully pull those different sources together to create an individual package for each farm. And that's how that incentive package would be created for each individual farm. So that's the answer to that question. Just like with the easement, each land easement, the value of that depends on the appraisal. It's very specific to each farm. That's how the incentive package would be as well. Okay, next slide. And so just to give you an idea of where we align out in the corporate world right now in terms of where money is being spent and who is willing to invest for what topics. And of course, it's not just corporate to federal, state, philanthropic funding as well. And we have the list here of some of the items, many of the items that are being invested, where investment is occurring. So of course, right away, we know with land protection at the top of our list, we obviously have a 20-year track record of investment there. So that's at the top of the list. Second, farm viability is a topic that there's been a lot of investment in. Matt just went through a list of grants for farm viability. There's been a lot there on smaller farms. We don't have a formal program for that. Obviously, we have been responding kind of on a case-by-case basis. That might be something we want to consider in the future. So it's on our list. We certainly have a track record for doing it. Soil health, it's implicit in the work that we do. We don't have formal direct policies on individual farm plans. That's something that we may learn from this cohort that we may want to develop over time, but certainly something that the investment is tied to, especially when it comes to carbon sequestration, which is later down on the list. Climate mitigation is at the top of everyone's list. It's what's driving the carbon markets right now, and certainly at the top of everyone's list. We do have call outs in our hazard plan that is board approved, but it's also implicit in the work that we're doing as well. Energy conservation, we have our KEEP program, so we have funding there for farmers. Biodiversity restoration, again, implicit in a lot of the work that we do, but again, specific to farm plans, we don't have anything. So again, that might be something we want to build more into. Water quality and water resources, we're a leader in this area as well. Many, many ordinances and track history there. So we continue to work in this area and refine it as it is related to farm planning and the work that we're doing there. As you know, we have the testing that Jody is doing right now. So we'll be learning more and more on that. Protection of farm and historic cultural resources. Again, we're a leader there, long track record on that, as well as local foods. Obviously, we've just talked about that and its relationship to health. And then finally, participation in peer learning. Everything points to farmers wanting to learn and work in this entire area peer-to-peer. And so everything that we build will have to have that. We want to have that for the greatest success so that they learn from each other. We already have the STAR program. We will hopefully build something within our own network for our own farmland protection cases going through in the farmers so that they have their own communication network and can learn from each other. And then monitoring and reporting, we already do that, but again, we'd like to build that out a little bit. So those are some of the metrics that we are looking for and that the investors would be looking for as well.
Mr. Chairman, question, please.
Hello,
Bates.
Bates.
Yeah, could you go into carbon sequestration just a little bit more, Janice?
Well, that's a major topic, obviously, but this is the need to, or the opportunity, maybe I'll say, to sequester carbon on farms
Right.
is what is driving the ecosystem markets right now. And that is where these various markets, some of them are private companies. There are a couple of not-for-profits that are willing to pay farmers to be able to do certain conservation practices on farm as part of their operation. And so with those payments, then that can offset the cost of having to do those practices, because there's a cost of having to do all of this work, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the question of, as a farmer includes more and more of these different practices, which has a cost to them, how much does this cost to do this work? Now, our RCPP, which is our farmland protection program that we're in, has some built-in incentive opportunities from the federal government just because we are in that program, which is great. It puts the farmers that are participating in farmland protection at the top of the list to be able to get what's called, for example, EQIP funding. And that's a first-time opportunity for our farmers because there's not enough of that funding to go around. For example, for cover crops or for pollinator habitat or different things like that, or filter strips. But will put our farmers at the top of that list. That does not cover the entire cost of doing all of this work. We know that that is the case with federal funding. So there are other sources. For example, the state of Illinois has a program. So then you layer that program. It's kind of called like a layer cake effect. And then you just go from there. The private markets are out there as well. They each have their own restrictions, qualifications, and details, and they vary sometimes year to year. So as we work to develop what's best for the farm, first of all, what's then best for the farmer in partnership, and then what are the opportunities that they're willing to put forth for Kane County. Because, and I will tell you, obviously the thing that sets us apart here is the fact that these farms will have permanent land protection. And that's, when it comes to carbon sequestration, that's something that other farms can't guarantee. And this is the one guarantee that we have. And so it's leverage that these farm owners have and that we have as a county as well. So it does set us apart in that sense. So these are all the things that we have to offer and that we'll be looking at.
Thank you.
Mhm. So that pretty much ends my presentation. If anyone has any other questions, I just wanted to say we're very looking forward to the cohort, and we'll be bringing you more formal documents as we move forward. But I just wanted to give you a sense of where we are now and how we'll be moving forward in the next few months.
Mr. Chairman, Alan?
Oh, I was wondering where you were, Debbie.
Well, late but here. Janice, can I ask, why are they using the term cohort? What does that mean in government ease, if that's possible?
Sure. Well, I will say that would be our county lingo that I think we have, that we're using within our department. So they're coming through as a group as opposed to just one by one. And over the past 20 years, each of the farms have come through individually, done their paperwork and gone about their easement individually. This time around, we're going to have them come through and do everything together as a group. Not that they need to share their individual paperwork, but they'll be learning as a group together. And we've understood through working with the small farms, the local food farms, is that they benefit so much by learning together as a group. And this will help so much as they're working on their conservation practices and implementing things, is that they can share between each other. and work together. And as you know, with farmland protection, the farms that decide to come forth and participate, they sell the program to each other based on their experiences with the program, right? So they decide that this is a good thing that they want to do as a group, which is why you find the farms, the adjacency. When you look on a map, you see the farms that are right next to each other, right? That's not by chance, because one farm will come in for protection and then the farm next door and the farm next door, right? So we want to leverage that experience and the experience of them coming through together so they can learn as a group. And farmers like to work together. They're individual business owners. There's no question about that. And there's that portion of it, but there's also the portion of learning as a group, or as I'm calling a cohort together.
Cool. So somebody says, if I put these acres into clover, the ground cover, I not only am, I'm not only adding to the nutritional value of that soil for the next time I plant a crop I'm going to sell, but I can get paid some money to help cover the cost of that, and the fact that that land is not being used for food to sell, or produce to sell this time. Is it that kind of thing?
It could be, but it could be many things. There's a lot of trial and error in all of this, right? And the experts, the crop experts often recommend not doing everything all at once. There are lots of different conservation practices that work on different fields differently. So even though for the novice looking at our farms, it may look like, oh, everything looks pretty uniform in corn or soybeans, but there's some variety there. So what may work on one field might be different than another field. And so they can exchange ideas and practices, and the markets too will vary, right, in terms of what works one year and what might not work the other. So there's so many different opportunities to learn from each other and trial and error. And then of course we want to learn from that too, which is the whole part of the metrics. And that's why also we are calling this a cohort, is that their participation allows us as a group to learn. The county can learn as well, what is helping our water quality, which practices in field, edge of field are helping our sub-watersheds in terms of water quality. Those are all things that are very important for the overall public good, which is why we're involved, right, as a county. There are some aspects that will be specific to the farmer and the farmer's business. There are some aspects that are important for them, but also for our public good as well. All the things that we're measuring. And then of course that value, what does that value in the marketplace bring?
I just wanted to say, Janice and Matt, thank you for tying this all together. It's a global amount of information, and it doesn't all apply to Kane County, but when you're kind of the farm version of Kane Connects, in that you're bringing us all together. And Mr. Chairman, you get these questions because you put non-farmers on the committee. So thank you.
Are there any other questions? Any comments? So we have two people on the board are junior farmers. Mr. Brown and Mr. Fraz are in training for grain harvest. So
Just dump my load in the bin.
Drew, you're
What kind of
just showing off.
moisture you're running?
ours is 20.
17.5.
That's
There
good.
you go.
We get points, money taken off the higher the moisture. And the higher the moisture, the harder it is it can be mush if it's too high, in the high 20s. But I was noticing that this year is the largest drought area in nearly a decade. That's why you hear everybody talking about climate change. So many areas are, in our area, we had the best pumpkins we ever had. And we were really deficient in rain, and it must have been, it's all timing. It's the right time, so, and I think the corn's doing well too, beans.
Now, you
Huh?
know, have you ever met a farmer that is happy?
And it's too hot, it's too cold, I'm too tired.
Too wet.
Let's go home.
Yield's not good enough. The insects are getting at the plants.
You have to be the last to come into the coffee shop.
Yeah.
See, then you're not at the bottom of the yield curve. All right, is there anything else to come before the committee? Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah, I had a question, maybe Mr. Van Kerkhoff could address. I know there is, can you guys hear me? This mic doesn't seem very loud.
Mike, please.
Microphone.
Yeah, let's see. Is this one working?
Oh, it's
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I think this one's just broken. I wanted to ask Mr. Van Kerkhoff about one of the requests that came in from the American Rescue Plan departmental request portal that related to agriculture and sustainability. So I don't know if we could talk about that a little bit.
Just to prove it.
All right, let's just say yes, right here.
She could, go ahead.
Sure, yeah, thank you. I'd be happy to. I've been following the, your committee and what the process was going to be, you know, for bringing the applications forward. The Development Department did submit 5 separate applications for distinct initiatives for economic recovery and sustainability. One of those 5 is for agriculture. And actually, Blair, if you could put the last slide of Janice's presentation up, that would be helpful. And I want to thank Janice. We talked about her presentation yesterday, and she had a little checklist, and I described a matrix which she very beautifully prepared. But a lot of if what she talked about made your head spin, it makes my head spin. And I can only imagine what it does for our local growers and farmers who are working in a myriad of things. So a number of the things that we're working on, regardless of the availability of the American Rescue Plan funding, has been getting more of these boxes checked and making the information available to our farmers and helping them get farm plans and things that make these different funding streams through a whole variety of sources, you know, available. And we've been doing that with our Economic Development Fund 400, which comes from Riverboat, from the Growing for Cane and Farmland Protection Funds, would come from Riverboat. Of course, those, you know, revenues have been down. So all 5 of those applications, staff believes may be eligible for funding under the revenue replacement bucket, but we also feel like we've designed the application so that they should be also, you know, under any aspect of the ARP funding. Staff really sees the ARP funding as an opportunity to really supercharge the programs that the Ag Committee, Jobs Committee, Development Committee have already been promoting, but in 3- and 5-digit grant numbers, as opposed to really being able to supercharge these programs. So the application in for the Agricultural Recovery and Sustainability Fund, our team, Janice, Matt, Tony, we really brainstormed and said, well, what would really help move our farmers' recovery and sustainability forward? So it's sort of a suite of things in the application that help us check the rest of those boxes, as well as provide some real assistance to our farmers. But instead of in drips and drabs, we can really flood the zone, so to speak, and really move things forward and make our whole county competitive, as well as improve the soil and water quality. So my understanding is that the committee was paired up to work and take a look at these applications. So I'll look forward to working with whoever's paired up for the Development Department applications, but also happy to answer any questions any member of the committee or any board member has on any of the applications, but particularly for agriculture. Thank you. Unless there's any other questions.
No,
We
just wanted to-
stacked the committee. There's 4 of us on it here.
So I'll also just add all 5 of these applications, while there are county department applications, the vast majority of the funding is it's just administered by staff, the programs, but the funding, the dollars are going out to the community to do these economic recovery and sustainability actions. So they're not funding government, so to speak. There's operating much like our economic development and farmland protection fund are currently operating. Thanks.
I hear you, Mark.
Is that Bates?
Yes. Thank you.
You got a question, Mavis?
No, I just wanted to thank Mark for his comments about that these will be going out to the community.
Taking the place of searches. He's just doing his job like he's done for years and years.
Good.
The question do you have any prizes, Stephen?
I have some calendars.
No, what about, do you need pumpkins left or?
Not with me.
Well, they can go pick them up and then they could shop.
We have pie pumpkins.
We have pie pumpkins.
Anybody wants to make a pie?
And the question is, when is the private well testing date?
Don't know yet.
Huh? Look at that, Mr. Brown wins.
Give my pumpkin to somebody else.
Okay. I am not making a pie.
Have somebody make David a pie. He could have it in his grain cart. If there's nothing else, we'll have a motion. We'll have unanimous consent to put the reports on file.
I'd ask for unanimous consent.
And then we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So
Mr. Leonard
moved.
moves, Mr. Brown seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.